Yeah, sure. Yeah, we've got a number of projects worldwide. As you mentioned, you referenced the one in the Middle East in Masdar, which we've been looking at. And more lately, I guess, around the region here, we're doing a number of sustainable community projects in China, a number of eco-cities that we're working on there. But I guess what you're touching on is a kind of integration of not just looking at buildings, but the whole kind of community systems that are predicated around this. So some of the work that we have been looking at has involved transport systems, looking at power, looking at how water supplies are actually integrated as part of this whole energy equation. A particular model that we've been using called Sustainable Systems Integration Model, SIM for short, which we've applied in Tianjin and in Singapore, in Jurong Lake complex. We've actually been working with the Urban Renewal Authority there. And one of the key things that has really sort of set the tone for this has been the setting of carbon targets up front. So there's very much a very conscious effort to look at not just the performance of an individual building or an individual transport system, but an overall holistic target that says that we'll reduce this carbon by 15 to 20%. And thereby then you can start planning and integrating all these different components of the system. So what takes place there is that we have master planning, as you've hinted earlier, that sets the spatial arrangement using GIS modeling, where we can actually look at the options that are available. And once the spatial arrangements have been set, then we look at the different systems around it. So it's the transport system, the power systems, looking at building, and also trying integrating a lot of the kind of community kind of aspects around it as well. So in particular, if there was a particular economic activity like tourism or particular commercial activities, what that then allows us to do is build it into the model and then eventually reach the ultimate carbon target. So the end effect is that it's a kind of linkage of measurement with, as you say, some of the more aesthetic kind of appeal of how the community then becomes takes ownership of this particular issue.
Thank you. Bringing the discussion perhaps back a little more to existing buildings and kind of the thinking about new buildings as well. One of the things that the American Institute of Architects has been involved with is kind of the development with a group of other professionals of the International Green Building Code, IGBCC, which is undergoing now, as you all know, a number of reviews. I think it's now in the second reading. It may take several years before this comes out, but it is really intended to be an effective tool to kind of respond to what our New York City building commissioner spoke about earlier this morning, is really setting some real milestones that you really must meet in kind of building performance. So we have the volunteer kind of side of things. Most, I think, known by many as the USGBC and the LEED rating system. But now we're going to be overlaying a building code, minimum standards, I think, for green building, at least across the United States. I don't know how far it'll go internationally. But it seems to me that really will also elevate building performance. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. As a regional vice chair of ASHRAE in Asia, I have been participating in commenting on the ASHRAE Green Guide as well as the International Green Building Code. ASHRAE is a member in supporting of the details. So there is some input from Asia coordinated through here. And one thing is that in Hong Kong, the forthcoming enacted Building Energy Code is supposedly going to set the scene as a minimum standard for commercial buildings and also communal space in residential buildings here. And we also have the Beam Plus system here. There's a new version called Beam Plus since April this year. It's administered and owned by the Hong Kong GBC. And in that particular new version, we have actually incorporated the forthcoming building energy requirement as the base prerequisite. And we are there to encourage developers to further enhance the building performance. in terms of energy saving by giving them extra credits on top of the minimum performances and so on. That we nicely tie in with the building energy code as a minimum performance, because that is the international trend, but we give them back the credits if they are doing better as part of the voluntary scheme.
Well, I know in the United States, many of the building districts are looking to architects and engineers to say, please give us the guidelines, the effective guidelines that we can follow. So I'm going to ask my panelists to all join me up here on the platform. I think there are enough chairs here now. If you could, because I'd like to really open this for discussion. We have, I don't know how much time we have. It says 12 minutes here, but do we have 12? We do. We started a little bit late, so we'll have less coffee, or you have to get out there and drink quickly. But I thought we'd just open it to the floor for any kind of questions or comments that you, the audience, may have. You know, there's a richness of kind of thought here represented at this on the platform now. You can talk to anything. We can talk about, you know, London. We can talk about Berlin. Two great cities. We can talk about the details of building engineering. We can talk certainly about the opportunities to renovate existing building stock. So I'd like to see if there are any questions that have been provoked by the panel here in the audience, things that you'd like to address. Yes, sir. You're in the front. Do we have a mic that we can kind of move to the front? Would you just identify yourself, please, and here.
Thank you. My name is Sebastian Lange. I'm with the United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN Habitat, and we're actually in the process of launching a green building project in East Africa, so promoting energy efficiency in buildings. Now, it's a very open question to the panelists, so whoever feels to respond. How do you see the chances of having something like that implemented? Most of the cities we have covered here are in the north, which have a significant income and amount of money and funding available to implement such measures. How do you see that in the developing world? Just one figure. Most of the buildings that are going to be built until 2050 are going to be built in the near future. So there's the immense chance to actually interfere with the processes to have real green buildings there, unlike Germany, where the new building stock that is built annually is 1% or something like that. So yeah, that would be my question. Thank you.
Well, also in view of my previous function working for GTZ in Syria, the outlook is twofold. On the one hand, the outlook is very dim as long as standards are not commonly applied. On the other hand, the outlook could be very optimistic, same if the standards were commonly applied. I don't see any reason why we should not apply globally, locally adapted, but globally standards for green buildings in order to match the common objective of energy saving and reduction of greenhouse gases. There is no reason that we do not apply a common set of standards because we all use the same resources. So provided standards are set, monitored, measured, and we have the tools, as we heard, for that, and evaluated, as long as this is not the case, my outlook is very dim. Looking at the situation in the Middle East as I experienced it, and it won't be much different in Africa. One other aspect, and we focused also on behavioral pattern, ACs, air conditioning, is an indicator for good living, for having reached a certain social standard. My employees in Syria use the AC in the reverse way. 17 degrees in summer, 27 in winter. I asked them to just change it the other way around, but that is a behavioral issue which is obviously not so easy to change.
George, perhaps let me take the opportunity. I know while we were talking about the North-South, I know we have some representatives here from Johannesburg who have an interesting story to tell about some aggregated indicators in their city. I wonder, I've lost Flora and Tien. Are they here? Oh, okay, Tien. I wonder if you could say something about that, because this is about existing buildings and improving energy efficiency at a scale different to what we've looked at already.
Hello, my name is Tian Ehlers and I'm from the city of Johannesburg. Joburg is not a very old city. It's about 100 years old, and so our existing building stock is not that large in comparison with other cities. And our projects in terms of dealing with the existing stock is really in its inception phase at this point in time. And we work primarily with volunteering companies who are prepared to explore with us the various options and help us also then to benchmark some of the information. And while we do that, we have an institution, a national institution, that help us with the research, and they have now developed some criteria and standards for us that we could try to enforce then in terms of the normal building plan approval processes that we have. So it's we had programs itself in terms of setting the example of also dealing with all the government buildings and retrofitting all of them. We've got other projects like trying to complement our street lighting and our traffic signal systems in terms of solar. But the most significant kind of development that we've done is the criteria that we have for what we call more sustainable human settlements, and also then for energy saving specifically then. And all new developments now at this point in time are forced to go through an application process where they have to assess for themselves what the impact of any development proposal would be in terms of these the energy requirements and so forth. And we also assess that in terms of three categories: the construction side, the transport side, and then also on the services side. And then based on that, we try to promote then that they give us a percentage discount then on, not a discount, but a reduction then on each of these contributions from that point of view. Thank you very much.
So that's good. Africa, helping Africa.
I understand there's a gentleman in the audience by the name of Mr. Kerry Chang with Swire. Is that right? And we haven't given you any warning, but we understand you also have been involved in many projects that deal with renovation. And I wonder if you might share some of your experience with us.